Alright guys, Tush coming at you Thursday, November 15th, back on the 68 TR250 project. And we're looking for some small jobs to do just to keep us busy. And we came across this front fender patch that needs to be made where the actual front side marker light goes. You can see we've got some rust through here. It's pitted but pretty solid up in this area, so I'm not going to touch this area up here. But I do want to cut this area out and replace this piece of metal. It does have a slight curve to it, so we'll have to be careful when we put this back in. So next step is to cut this out and make a new patch, weld it in, and then we'll have to figure out how to drill this hole. I obviously don't have a drill that is that large, so we'll drill it as large as we can, and then we'll have to probably get the Dremel out and make it a little larger. Alright guys, here's a quick look at the little patch piece removed, and you can see the curve in it, so I'm going to try to duplicate that obviously. Here's the fender with the big gaping hole, so we'll cut up a patch, bend it slightly, and we'll fit it in there. Alright guys, we've got the patch fitted nicely, so we're just about to go ahead and weld it in. We'll probably do a little hammer and dolly work, just fitting it flushly. So we'll go ahead and do that. Alright guys, one more patch down so that fender repair is done. So it looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. We just need to enlarge that hole somewhat. So we'll do that in the future. So we'll move on to another location that we can repair. Alright guys, the next little area of repair is here on the A-post at the top, on the front face of the A-post. I'll just zoom out so you can see where I'm working on. So we repaired the outside, so when we repaired the outside we opened up a little bit of a hole here, so we need to cut this out, probably over to here, and create a little patch for that and weld that in. So we'll do that next. Alright guys, as per it is with this car, that little tiny patch ended up turning into a big patch. So we're doing this as a two-part patch. I've got this little piece of metal to sort of fit in here, and you can see it's sort of got this lip to contend with, so I've sort of bent the edge of this over. I'm probably going to bend it a little bit more to fit this curve. So we're going to weld this little piece in here first, and then we're going to finish off the other piece, the other triangular piece, when it's stepped down, where it's stepped down. Anyway, we'll fit that piece in there best as we can, and we'll weld it in. Alright guys, Monday, November the 27th, just coming up to 9:45 a.m. Got the day off work today, so we're going to spend it out in the garage, working back on the 68 TR250 project. Haven't been out here for probably over a week. I remember I was working on this area last, and we're fixing up this little repair area here on the top of the A-post. So we've got that looking not too bad. Probably need a little bit more welding to finish that off, but or a little bit more grinding to finish that off, but it looks pretty good. I need a little bit more grinding down there as well where I've left some weld. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with that whole repair area that we've done on the sill and the A-post. So we're going to work on a little bit of a different area. If you recall back here, I've got some issues. Just grab a light. In this area here where you can see it's quite thin, and we've got a hole there, so as we know, when we start having a better look at this area, that's probably going to be quite a substantial hole by the time we're through excavating, let's say. So we're going to break out the Dremel, and we're going to cut a little area out of that spot there and put some fresh metal in there. So that's what today's project's going to be. We'll come back. Alright guys, here's a little bit better look at that area in question, and I'm already seeing that I'm going to have some challenges here based on this brazing. So we've got basically a patch brazed in here. Obviously you can see all the brazing down here, and there's even a little bit of brazing in here. So the problem is when I go to replace these patches, obviously I'm going to be affected by the brazing. Now there's even brazing up in this area here, so even if I go further up, I can't really get out of the brazing to be able to repair this well. So I'm going to try to stay below it and put a new piece in here to get rid of all this thinness here. This piece doesn't look to be as difficult, and it doesn't look to be as much brazing. There are some spot welds here on the side that I've got to drill out to be able to pull this piece off of this taillight bucket, and you can see this metal is already starting to flake here, so I'm not sure what's going to go on there. Once I remove this flange piece, I'll probably end up having to replace a piece of the taillight bucket as well. So yeah, I think this is going to open up a bit of a can of worms. It's also a little bit difficult piece because you can see it's flat, then got a step, and then it got an out-turn curve piece. So we'll have to shape that a little bit, probably by with a little hammering and a little bit of hand forming. So anyway, I just wanted to give you a quick look at that. So we'll break out the Dremel with a cutting wheel, and we'll drill out these spot welds, and we'll see if we can remove these pieces carefully. Alright, here we go. Watch your eyes. Alright, we'll break out the drill and drill out these spot welds, which are kind of non-existent up here, but we'll have to find something anyway, and we'll grab a small chisel and see if we can get these patches out in one piece. Alright. When you hit rust, stop. Now, I'd asked to borrow one of Ellen's hammers, but they're holding up the front of his car. So I'll just use one of my own. trying to get it out without damaging it too much, so I can still use it as a template for a patch. You can see the inner flange is all rusted away, as I thought it would be. There's one. And you can see there's a bunch of seam sealer. I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not. A bunch of seam sealer holding a bunch of rust together. And there's the bottom piece. Could use a little bit more dremeling. Good catch. More seam sealer. Alright, can you see that? So there's where we're at. So as I mentioned, that inner flange there is pretty rusty. We may go ahead and just remove this piece. I kind of like to have that there for reference though. So we'll keep it for as long as we can. Anyway, we'll repair that inner flange first before we create the new patches for the areas that we opened up. So, like I said, the repair area is always about 10 times larger than you think it's going to be. Anyway, we'll come back. Alright guys, so now we're on the inside of the rear tail light nacelle. And as you can see, we've got a little bit here that's all rusted away, so we're going to try to replace from just above that down back behind it all the way down. You can see, I don't know if you'll be able to see in there, but it's fairly rusty in here as well. There you can see the rusted out area. So what we're going to do is just trim this whole area out, replace this little piece before we go ahead and replace those two exterior pieces. Alright guys, a quick look of that area with that piece cut out. It's a little tight to get the Dremel in there to get a straight across cut. So we've got it cut up on a little bit of an angle, but that won't be a problem. So we're going to break out the little Dremel grinding disc, and we're just going to clean up this edge and prepare it to get ready for a new piece of metal to be welded in there. We'll also clean up the face of this little flange piece that's still left on here. We'll just take the rust off of that, and we'll reattach it to the new flange piece when we have it ready. Alright guys, we've got our patch piece cut and just sitting in there, and we're just getting ready to weld it in. I thought I'd just give you a quick shot of that. There it is on the front side, and there it is on the back side. We got a little bit of a gap at the top that we'll have to fix up, but anyway, it's not sitting quite up flush to the top yet anyway. It will when we weld it in. So anyway, we're going to grab the welder and tack that in there. Alright guys, just a quick look of that new flange welded on the inside of that taillight nacelle. So I think that looks pretty good. It's all ground down. There it is on the outside. So we'll start creating those two patch pieces. Alright guys, we've got the bottom patch made and fitted in there not too badly. It's a little bit difficult patch because it's got this little flange piece on it, of course, then a little step piece, and then it's got a bit of a curve in it as well, and it's got a curve this way and it curves this way, so it's a little bit of fiddling around to get it to fit in there properly. I think we're not too bad there. We'll probably weld it in, do a little hammering as well as we weld it. We're going to drill a few little areas for spot welds here on the inner flange, and then we'll go ahead and weld that in, and then we'll concentrate on that upper piece. Alright guys, just a quick look of the bottom section repaired, obviously up to here. So we just got to now replace this top little patch. So it's not too bad. I was thinking of putting a little bit of a weld in here. This is the other little flange piece that was left, has a little bit of a divot in it, so we might throw a little weld in there the next pass when we do the top repair. So we'll make the patch for up here and we'll weld it in. So I think I'm going to do this top patch a little differently. I think I'm going to build the flange piece first out to the edge of the step, and we're going to weld that in, and then we'll attach this to this small patch. The problem is this flange sort of gets a little bit wider as it curves towards the bottom, so I want to get this step correct. As you can see over there how it sort of curves and bends. That's what I'm trying to accomplish on this side. So I think it's easier to do the flange piece and locate that where I want it to. So it sort of falls, it doesn't come straight down. It doesn't come straight down, it actually sort of falls off to the rear and joins back in here. So we want to create that sort of step to follow that. So that's what we're going to do. So this is probably going to be pretty hard for you to understand until you actually see it, but this is sort of how I envision the flange to work. So it goes from narrow to wide, so top to bottom, narrow to wide, but then the actual step piece goes wide to narrow, so the inverse of the flange piece. So anyway, we'll create that and see if that actually works like that. We'll come back in a minute. Initial bend of that piece, and if I fit it up here, so that's sort of what we're going for. Obviously I need to bend that flange piece back here a little further to get that in line, but that's sort of what we're going with. And you can see how, it goes narrow at the bottom, so that lines up pretty well. We're going to trim this piece up obviously to fit there and bend that flange back to get this angle, but I think we're going to be good there. So we'll then just create this other little square piece to attach to that. So anyway, let me trim that up and fit that in. Okay, just another quick look at that patch fitted. So it's pretty close here. We need to go back a tiny little bit, and we're probably going to trim the edge because we now obviously need to weld another piece of metal to that, so we don't want it to stand proud of the existing sheet metal. So we'll just trim that back a little bit and bend that just a touch more just to get that in line, and I think we should be good. Alright guys, not sure how well you're going to be able to see this, but that area is now repaired, and I'm happy with that. A little bit of filler there, a little skim coat of filler. I think all will be good. I think the line looks pretty good, follows the contours pretty well, and we've got that flange looking not too bad. So we're going to leave it there and we'll move on to the next section. Alright guys, I think the area I want to tackle next is going to be along the top of the inner fender here. You can see how short the inside flange is. If you look at the flange of the fender versus the flange of the inner fender, you can see how much distance there is from the top of the inner to the top of the fender, and it's pretty substantial the whole way along. Now if I take a look at this side is much better with the original fender on, and you can see how tight the top of the inner goes to the top of the fender on this side. And I think the reason for that is whoever did this bodywork before wasn't really paying attention. If you look at where this top flange starts, in the corner here, up by the bulkhead, you can see that it's even with the top of the bulkhead. If I go over to the other side of the car and look at the same area, you can see that whoever put this inner flange on started it well below where it should be. Probably almost at least a quarter of an inch, getting pretty close to a half an inch, I would say, in that corner. So really that flange needs to start right at the top of that corner and work its way all the way from the bulkhead to the front of the car. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to carefully add some metal to the top of this inner fender structure the whole way along the length of this, so when we finish this car, we're not going to see the inside edge or the inner flange of the fender the whole way along like it's going to be showing right now. So that fender's approximately in the right position, so you can see how high that fender rides over the inner. Anyway, we're going to fix that. I can't live with that, so we'll fix it to the best of our ability. Anyway, so that will be for another day. That will be the next project we tackle. So we'll upload what we've got. It's not much, but at least shows we've worked a little bit on the car in the last week and a half or so. So we'll upload that, and we'll get back out here hopefully during the week sometime, and we'll start on that flange repair piece.